President, you talked a lot about climate being an emergency today. Why not just declare it an emergency?
Because I'm running the traps on the totality of the authority I have. I'll make that decision soon.
US President Joe Biden said on Wednesday that climate change is an emergency, but stopped short of a formal declaration, announcing a modest package of executive actions and promising more aggressive efforts. Biden made the comments during a visit to Massachusetts and as a historic heat wave batters Europe and the United States. Some 100 million Americans from New York City to Las Vegas will be under heat warnings this week. Climate change is literally an existential threat to our nation and to the world, Biden said. This is an emergency, and I will look at it that way.
I come here today with a message. As President, I have a responsibility to act with urgency and resolve when our nation faces clear and present dangers. And that's what climate change is about. It is literally, not figuratively, a clear and present danger. The health of our citizens and our communities is literally at stake. Extreme weather disrupts supply chains, causing delays and shortages for consumers and businesses. Climate change is literally an existential threat to our nation and to the world. So my message today is this. Since Congress is not acting as it should, and these guys here are, but we're not getting many Republican votes, this is an emergency, and I will look at it that way. I said last week, and I'll say it again loud and clear. As President, I'll use my executive powers to combat the climate crisis in the absence of congressional actions, notwithstanding their incredible action. In the coming days, my administration will announce the executive actions we have developed to combat this emergency. Former members.
The announcements included new funding for cooling centers and pushing for new offshore wind projects in the oil-rich Gulf of Mexico.
That's why today I'm making the largest investment ever, $2.3 billion, to help communities across the country build infrastructure that's designed to withstand the full range of disasters we've been seeing up to today. Extreme heat, drought, flooding, hurricanes, tornadoes. Right now, there are millions of people suffering from extreme heat at home. So my team is also working with the states to deploy $385 million right now. For the first time, states will be able to use federal funds to pay for air conditioners in homes, set up community cooling centers in schools where people can get through these extreme heat crises. We're going to make sure that the ocean is open for the clean energy of our future, and everything we can do, give a green light to wind power on the Atlantic coast where my predecessors' actions only created confusion. And today, we began the process to develop wind power in the Gulf of Mexico as well for the first time. A real opportunity to power millions of additional homes from wind.
Still, those actions fall short of demands by Democratic lawmakers and environmental activists who wants Biden to formally declare a climate emergency, which would enable the use of the Defense Production Act to ramp up production of a wide range of renewable energy products and systems. Biden is under increasing pressure after conservative Democratic Senator Joe Manchin said last week he was not ready to support key climate provisions in Congress, a critical loss in the evenly divided Senate. In the coming days, my administration will announce the executive actions we have developed to combat this emergency, he said.
Not a single Republican in Congress stepped up to support my climate plan. Not one. So let me be clear. Climate change is an emergency. And in the coming weeks, I'm going to use the power I have as president to turn these words into formal, official government actions through the appropriate proclamations, executive orders, and regulatory power that a president possesses. When it comes to fighting for climate change, I will not take no for an answer. Thank you.
The Federal Emergency Management Agency will provide 2.3 billion US dollars in funding to help states build cooling centers to deal with excessive heat and to tackle other impacts of climate change. The White House said as it announced the largest ever investment to the Building Resilient Infrastructure and Communities program. New funding could expand flood control, shore up utilities, retrofit buildings, and help low-income families pay for heating and cooling costs. Biden also announced new support for the domestic offshore wind industry. The administration has identified 700,000 acres for possible offshore wind energy development in the Gulf of Mexico, the White House said. Biden spoke from a former coal-fired plant that is playing a role in supporting the state's offshore wind industry as a manufacturing hub for undersea cables. Senator Jeff Merkley and 8 other Democrats sent a letter to Biden on Wednesday, urging him to declare a climate emergency and use aggressive executive actions to limit emissions from fossil fuels produced on public lands and waters and maximize use of electric vehicles. Biden said more is to come.
Mr. President, you talked a lot about climate being an emergency today. Why not just declare it an emergency?
Because I'm running the traps on the totality of the authority I have. I'll make that decision soon.
And what would be the ramifications of doing it? Do you think you'd be able to do more?
Well, I think I can do more unless the Congress acts. In the meantime, I can do more because not enough is being done now. And so there's still discussions going on about whether or not there will be some action on my climate plan. And I'm told that's in play. And we'll see. We'll see what happens.
Do you still have hopes for a legislative agreement with Senator Manchin on climate?
I've not spoken to Senator Manchin.
So no hopes for one?
I do not have an agreement with Senator Manchin.
Biden promised tough action on climate change in his presidential campaign, and it remains a key priority for some voters ahead of November 8 midterms for control of Congress. The US President also pledged in international climate negotiations to cut climate pollution by 50% by 2030 and reach 100% clean electricity by 2035. But the climate agenda has been derailed by several major setbacks, including Congress failed to pass crucial climate and clean energy measures in a federal budget bill, record-setting gasoline prices, and Russia's invasion of Ukraine disrupting global energy markets. A Supreme Court ruling last month limiting the federal government's authority to issue sweeping regulations to reduce carbon emissions from power plants also is undermining Biden's climate plans.